Good morning, my friends. Yes, my nails are off and it's time to add some new nails. I have my fire marble tips. I went in and I did a little bit of drawing with black on it just to liven them up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and add these. What I've done is I've totally taken off my tips. I'm just going to put my nail prep on. Just wanted to show you what I do when I go to put all these on. So I'm just putting my dehydrator on, and I will do this over my full nail now before I do anything else. Now I'll leave my nails dry for a little bit. So I just kind of wanted to show you the process that I usually do. Now I will let that dry. And I'll let it dry really, really well, give my nails a little bit of a rest, and then I'll come in with my brush on gel resin and put on my nail tips. Now I have also buffed, here let me just get back here so you can see, I've also buffed the back of the nail, like inside, so that when I go to adhere them on, I get a good adhesion. Like it really goes good. So I've buffed my natural nail, and then what I'll do is, like I said, I'll come in with the dehydrator. I'll let it dry real well. Like I'll give it a few minutes. Like I won't just go right on to putting on my gel. Give it a few minutes. Then I'll come in with my brush on resin and start putting them on. And I'll show you what that looks like. Once they are on, I will then go in again with my nail dehydrator just on the surface of my nail. And then I'll go in with the acid primer just on the surface of the nail, avoid the skin. And then I will usually do an IBD bonder, just to make sure. We've had some top coat on here, we've had different things, and since I just did a little bit of drawing on them, I don't really want to buff them up too much. So I'll use my IBD bonder, and that will suction on that acrylic that I go to put on. Now I could do clear, I could do a lot of things, because I kind of want to cover just the base of my nail a little bit, like just the nail bed itself. I want to use some like clear pink that I have, and I've got my Young Nails clear. And I'll go over the nail with that. And in case I want to do any other art or anything like that, then I can do that as I'm working on. So at this point, I'm going to put a fairly generous, like I know resin is glue, we all know that, but I actually use what's called resin, not just brush on nail glue. And then I'm going to put it on the spot I want it, and I'm going to hold it real well. Now you're not going to be able to really see here. I'm going to try to do this again so you can kind of see it. So I'm going to put the nail on, and I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to hold it real well. And what I even like to do after too, after I have the nail on, is I'll let it dry. I'll make sure like my little corners are in. Make sure it's on really well. And depending on how well it adhered and if I got good adhesion or whatever, I'll let it dry. Then I'll come back after I have them all on, and I'll just touch a little bit of the nail resin just along the nail and there where it connected up, and I'll just look underneath to make sure that my nail has adhered properly, everything looks really good. Because with my nails, I have bumpy ridges on my nails because I was injured on this nail as a kid, so it always kind of sits up a little bit from the nail. So what I like to do is, after everything, I like to go back and I just like to make sure that's all filled in. I don't like any spaces on that nail there. I'll just make sure everything is connected underneath, because any space underneath that nail, not only is it a lifting point, but it can also hold bacteria. So I'll make sure that everything is well laid. And because I'm using the nail resin, it dries better, it works better, and it gets a better hold. Sometimes you'll notice like a little bit of white, depending what type of nail resin you use. Sometimes you can get a little bit of white when it dries around that nail edge. That will go away. Usually I'll file it away, or it'll naturally just go away once you start putting your acrylic on it. You got to be careful which type you're using. You want to use a really good resin. Like, you don't want to just go using nail glue, like just the nail glue. I notice a difference when it says nail glue to nail resin. They're basically the same thing. They have the same properties, but some resins, they have the ability to dry very, very clear. You know, like, so instead of just using, it would be like trying to do a mold with resin. Just want to make sure I'm on straight here. It would be like trying to use a mold with a resin with just a normal glue, rather a resin. One's going to work a lot better than the resin is. You know what I mean? Like, the glue is going to stick and leave a tacky layer where it's all going to stick to the product, where if you were to like use a mold with the actual resin, it's made for it. So it works a little bit differently. And like I said, I always like to make sure I come in on those edges. Like, this is not something you have to do. I prefer to do it just to make sure I have good adhesion, because if that nail is not stuck down properly, and I make sure those ends are in, like, so you can see I make sure those ends are in. I use my nail and just kind of push in, because if they're not stuck down properly, it will come off. Like, it's not going to stay. So I always make sure that if I'm going to use a tip itself, I have it structurally on there well. If it's not on and stuck on well, everything about the nail is going to fail. So once this is on well, you're good to go. And I mean, I can have a nice set last for weeks, but it's just like doing a normal acrylic. So this is, I find the longer they are, the less time they'll last for, only because you end up getting rougher on them. Doesn't mean that you can't make a nice set last. I know me personally, it's just on how you treat them and day to day what you do. Like, if you're doing a ton of cleaning and you're constantly washing your hands like I am, it's not going to last as long as it would probably for someone who, say, is a hand model that puts a lot of cream on and stuff like that, but just babies their hands. So just like to make sure I got straightness. This one looks really good on, but still, I just go around with just a tiny little bit. I don't want to make a ridge or anything. I just want to make sure I got a good seal around that underneath of the nail there. I find that's a lot of places where people will neglect when they go to do the nails. what they'll do is they'll go and they'll just get their press tip and they'll go and they'll put it on. They'll just put on some brush on glue and they'll hold it on, and it's okay. But they don't necessarily check their corners. They don't necessarily make sure that the glue is all the way around. A lot of times the acrylic will take over for that. Now, if I was sculpting a nail, that would be a different scenario altogether. I wouldn't be wasting my time with all this. I'd be doing different techniques. But I have sculpted. I do sculpt. For me personally, you gotta shape, you gotta do all this stuff, and I can't do all the fun stuff like I'm doing now with sculpting. Like, I could sculpt all this out. It would take forever, and I might not get the result I necessarily like. So it's all in what I'm prepared to do for the day. And like I said, I always buff the underneath of my nail. Always buff, and I always actually put a little bit of resin on there because I want to make sure that, like I said, I got a good seal. I notice these people that go through and they just put a little bit. That might be good for some people. My nails are really weird. I don't know why. But with the way mine work, I just find a little bit more works a little bit better, and then I can make sure, oh, I gotta make sure that's on straight. And then I can make sure that I've got a good seal. I don't want so much that it's running everywhere, but some of my nails are wide, so I need a little bit more product. And I like to push mine down a little bit further on the nail just because of the way my nail shape is. Looks a little bit better. So I just want to make sure, and I take time with each nail I put on. I don't just keep rushing. I would much rather, look at this poor nail, eh? This is the one that I bashed at Christmas. I'm still kind of coming back from it. And normally I would have a nice shape on my nails and stuff. Like, they're not terrible, but this hand I've done a lot of damage to because I've done a lot of bashing of this hand. I don't know how. Sorry, excuse me. I've been pretty crazy on that hand. So I got it caught in the car door when I was pulling my hand out of the car door. And it was such a simple thing too, but I really, really got it really good. Like, it was painful. So that's what happened here. It was like, it looked like underneath the nail it actually bled and it bruised all up. Ooh, it was pretty nasty. So that's what that is. That's the bruise I got from Christmas, and it actually got onto this middle nail too, and a little bit on this one, and then this one over here. I don't know, that whole hand. This one's doing pretty good, but like I said, I keep my nails fairly short. I don't let my natural nail get any length anymore because of the fact that I do nails, and I don't want it in the way. So I'll do the same thing with the other hand. So you know what, you probably don't have to be here for that. So I'm going to go ahead and add them to the other nail, and I'll come back when I'm going to finish up, because that way you get to see kind of what I do when I go to put my tips on. And I will see you in a minute. Hello. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going in and what I've decided to do is just use my black tip marker, and I'm going to go in and add some details right to my nail. I'm not going to I just literally want to I think add so basically all I'm doing is just going in and adding some fun. Because I was going to go in and just do a nail bed, but then I decided, you know what, maybe I'll just continue it on and add something kind of fun and interesting. Why not? You only live once. So I'm just going in, either changing up or adding any details that I want to with my marker. And then I'm going to go in with my bonder one more time. And then I think what I'll do is I will do my acrylic at that point. So I will be back in a minute when I'm done. Okay, I am back. Just cleaning off my blush a little. It was really, really nasty. Okay, I've decided to go ahead and just use a clear UV gel instead of the acrylic because I've added a bonder and stuff anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and I am just going to start applying. So I'm just going to start applying my crystal, my clear gel. Usually I'll do a few at a time, depending, because if I start to see it start to run or start to level out too much, I'll get it in the lamp so it's not so I don't get it running too much. And I'll always do one coat and come back and do a second. To make sure I got all those spots that I need to do. Whee! Come here. Oh, yeah. Dang colds, I tell you. This way I can go through once it's kind of cured and I can kind of see what I have left to do on those nails. I want to fix that one a bit. This one, I notice there's a little spot on this one that is not touched, and I want to make sure I get that. So I'll kind of let it self-level a little before I put it in the lamp. And then I'll come back and I'll put another coat on usually. So, okay, I'm just going to do those three really quick while I have them. And I'm going to continue to put it on. Then I will do my filing, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm all filed, I'm filled, it is time for top coat and cuticle oil. So I am going to just do that now. Ooh, so pretty. I think this top coat's almost empty too, so I'm gonna have to get a new one. So pretty. And at this point, if I wanted to do any extra little painting or anything, I could. I think it's pretty good on its own. I think it's good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll top coat and put some cuticle oil on, and I'll get you some shots. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, and here are our finished nails. They turned out really gorgeous, really pretty. And I'll go ahead and I'll try to take a couple of shots for you. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.